Yata Bhavan. The great sage Narada continued, my dear King Parsina Parsina Bhavan, like you, King Pranjana was implicated in so many desires. Thus he worshipped forefathers, social with various sacrifices, which were all very ghastly because they were inspired by the desire to kill animals. Oh my God. What a mistake that is. Purport by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami. The great sage Narada discloses that the character of Puranjana was being described to give lessons to King Arsena Bodhisattva. Actually, the entire description was figuratively describing the activities of King Parsena Bodhisattva. In this verse, Narada frankly says, like you, Yata Bhavan, which indicates that King Puranjana is none other than King Parsena Bodhisattva himself. Being a great Vaishnava, Narada Muni wanted to stop animal killing and sacrifices. He knew that if he tried to stop the king from performing sacrifices, the king would not hear him. Therefore, he is describing the life of Puranjana, but in this verse, he first discloses the intention. Although he is not fully by saying, like you, generally the karmas who are attached to increasing descendants have to perform so many sacrifices and worship so many demigods for future generations, as well as to satisfy so many leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists to make things go on properly for future generations. The so-called scientists are very eager to see that future generations will live very comfortably. And as such, they are trying to find different means of generating energy to drive locomotives, cars, airplanes, and so on. Now, they are exhausting the petroleum supply. These activities are described in Bhagavad Gita 2.41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekaha kuranandana bahusaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on the spiritual path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. To please Krishna. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So, the devotees have a spiritual path, and their aim is one. They want to please Krishna. And in the process, they want to go back to Godhead. But the materialistic people, they have so many different desires. So they are irresolute and many branched. Actually, those who are in knowledge of everything are determined to execute Krishna consciousness. Very important. But those who are rascals, mudhas, low class sense gratifiers, sinners, duskritina, and lowest of mankind, naradama. So you have mudhas, you have duskritina, and you have narada. Mudhas are sinners, duskritina, the lowest of mankind. And no, I'm sorry. You have that's why rascals, mudhas, and then sinners, duskritina, And then the lowest of mankind, Naradama, who are bereft of all intelligence, Mayapita Jnana, and who take shelter of the demoniac way of life. That's killing animals, eating them, and so forth. Asuram Bhavam Asrita, that's the demoniac way of life, are disinterested in Krishna consciousness. As such, they become implicated and take on so many activities. Most of these activities center around the killing of animals. Wow, what a horrible thing that is. Modern civilization is centered around animal killing. Karmis are advertising that without eating meat, their vitamin value or vitality will be reduced. So to keep oneself fit to work hard, one must eat meat. That, of course, is a completely false statement, but that's what the karmis believe. And to digest meat, one must drink liquor. To keep the balance of drinking wine and eating meat, one must have sufficient sexual intercourse to keep fit to work very hard like an ass. Well, and Prabhupada just summarized the life of really nonsense people. And unfortunately, there are too many nonsense people. There are two ways of animal killing. One way is in the name of religious sacrifices. All the religions of the world, except the Buddhists, have a program for killing animals in places of worship. According to Vedic civilization, the animal eaters are recommended to sacrifice a goat in the temple of Kali under certain restrictive rules and regulations and eat the flesh. Similarly, they are recommended to drink wine by worshiping the goddess Chandika. The purpose is restriction. Very, very important statement. The purpose is restriction. People have given up all this restriction. Now they are regularly opening wine distilleries, slaughterhouses, and indulging in drinking alcohol and eating flesh. A Vaishnava Acharya like Narada Muni knows very well that persons engaged in such animal killing in the name of religion are certainly becoming involved in the cycle of birth and death, forgetting the real aim of life to go home back to Godhead. Well, that's the correct description of most people today. They are mudas, rascals. They are duskritina, sinners. And they are naradama, lowest of mankind. Thus, the great sage Narada, while instructing Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasa Muni, condemned the karma kanda fruitive activities mentioned in the Vedas. Narada told Vyasa, Jugupsitam dharma krite nusata, nusasata, swabhava raktasya mahan vyati krama. Yad vaik yato dharma ititar stito na manyate tasya nivaranam jana. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. Wow. This is verily condemned, and it's quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
Prohibitions.
Prohibitions. Yeah, they won't control their senses and their mind. Prohibitions. Sri Narada Muni chastised Vyasadeva. Wow. For compiling so many Vedic supplementary scriptures, which are all intended for guiding the people in general. Narada Muni condemned these scriptures because they do not mention direct devotional service. Under Narada's instructions, direct worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, was set forth by Vyasadeva. The conclusion is that neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, nor his devotee ever sanctions animal killing in the name of religion. Okay, here it is. Indeed, Krishna incarnated himself as Lord Buddha to put an end to animal killing in the name of religion. Animal sacrifice under the name of religion is conducted by the influence of the tamo guna, the mode of ignorance. As indicated in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 18.31-32, Yaya dharmam adharman cha karyam evacha ayatavat prajaniti buddhi sa partha rajasi adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasa rita sarvartan viparit amscha buddhi sa partha tamasi. That understanding, which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done. That imperfect understanding, O son of Peter, is in the mode of passion. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness strives always in the wrong direction. Very important. O Partha is in the mode of ignorance. Those who are involved in the mode of ignorance manufacture religious systems for killing animals. Actually, Dharma is transcendental. As Lord Sri Krishna teaches, we must give up all other systems of religion and simply surrender to him. Sarvadharman Parityaja. Thus the Lord and his devotees and representatives teach the transcendental Dharma, which does not allow animal killing at all. At the present moment, it is the greatest misfortune that in India, many so-called missionary workers, meaning the Christians, are spreading irreligion in the name of religion. They claim an ordinary human being to be God and recommend meat eating for everyone, including so-called sannyasis. Wow. Okay, that's a bad narrative for the Christian preachers in India. Text 12. Thus, King Puranjana, being attached to fruitive activities, karma kandya, as well as kith and kin, meaning your family members and your place where you live comfortably, and being obsessed with polluted consciousness, eventually arrive at that point, not very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. Let's read that again. Thus, King Puranjana, being attached to fruitive activities, karma kandya, as well as kith and kin, and being obsessed with polluted consciousness, eventually arrived at that point, not being very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the words priya, yositam, and apriya are very significant. The yosit means woman, and priya means dear or blessing or pleasing. Death is not very much welcome for those who are too much attached to material enjoyment, which culminates in sex. There is an instructive story in this connection. Once, when a saintly person was passing on his way, he met a prince, the son of a king, and he blessed him, saying, "My dear prince, may you live forever." The sage next met a saintly person and said to him, "You may either live or die." Eventually, the sage met a brahmachari devotee, and he blessed him, saying, "My dear devotee, you may die immediately." Finally, the sage met a hunter, and he blessed him, saying, "Neither live nor die." The point is that those who are very sensual and are engaged in sense gratification do not wish to die. Generally, a prince has enough money to enjoy his senses. Therefore, the great sage said that he should live forever. For as long as he lived, he could enjoy life. But after his death, he would go to hell. Since the brahmachari devotee was leading a life of severe austerities and penances, in order to be promoted back to Godhead, the sage said that he should die immediately so that he need not continue to labor hard and could instead go back home, back to Godhead. A saintly person may either live or die, for during his life, he is engaged in serving the Lord, and after his death, he also serves the Lord. Thus, this life and the next are the same for a saintly devotee, for in both he serves the Lord. Since the hunter lives a very ghastly life due to killing animals, and since he will go to hell when he dies, he is advised to neither live nor die. King Puranjan finally arrived at the point of old age. In old age, the senses lost their strength. And although an old man desires to enjoy his senses, and especially sex life, he is very miserable because his instruments of enjoyment no longer function. Such sensualists are never prepared for death. They simply want to live on and extend their life by so-called scientific advancement. Some foolish Russian scientists also claim that they are going to make man immortal through scientific advancement under the leadership of such crazy fellows. Civilization is going on. Cruel death, however, comes and takes all of them away despite their desire to live forever. This type of mentality was exhibited by Hiranyakashipu, but when the time was right, the Lord personally killed him within a second. Text 13. Okay. Yeah. Okay. On Gandharva Loka, there is a king named Chanda Dvega. Chandavega. Under him, there are 360 very powerful Gandharva soldiers. Time is purport by Srila Prabhupada. Time is figuratively described here as Chandavega. Since time and tide wait for no man, time is herein called Chandavega, which means very swiftly passing by. As time passes, it is calculated in terms of years. 1 year contains 360 days, and the soldiers of Chandavega herein mentioned represent these days. Time passes swiftly. Chandavega's powerful soldiers of Gandharva Loka very swiftly carry away all the days of our life. As the sun rises and sets, it snatches away the balance of our lifespan. Thus, as each day passes, each one of us loses some of life's duration. It is therefore said that the duration of one's life cannot be saved. But if one is engaged in devotional service, his time cannot be taken away by the sun. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.17, Ayur Harati Vai Pumsam Udyan Astam Chayan Aso. The conclusion is that if one wants to make himself immortal, he should give up sense gratification. Very good advice. By engaging oneself in devotional service, one can gradually enter into the eternal kingdom of God. I like that. Gradually enter into the eternal kingdom of God. Mirages and other illusory things are sometimes called Gandharvas. Our losing our lifespan is taken as advancement of age. The imperceptible passing away of the days of life is figuratively referred to in this verse as Gandharvas. As explained in later verses, such Gandharvas are both male and female. This indicates that both men and women lose their lifespan imperceptibly by the force of time, which is herein described as Chanda Vega. Text 14. Along with Chanda Vega were as many female Gandharvas as there were soldiers, and all of them repetitively plundered all the paraphernalia for sense enjoyment. The days have been, purport by Srila Prabhupada, the days have been compared to soldiers of Chandavega. Night is generally a time for sex enjoyment. Days are considered to be white, and nights are considered to be black. And from another point of view, there are two kinds of nights, black nights and white nights. All these days and nights combine to pass away our span of life and everything we manufacture for sense gratification. Material activity means manufacturing things for sense gratification. Scientists are conducting research to find out how we can satisfy our senses more and more elaborately. In this Kali Yuga, the demoniac mentality is employed in manufacturing various machines to facilitate the process of sense gratification. There are so many machines for ordinary household activities. These are machines for washing dishes, cleansing the floor, shaving, clipping hair. Today, everything is done by machine. All these facilities for sense gratification are described in this verse as sarvakama vinir mitam. The time factor, however, is so strong that not only is our span of life being expended, but all the machines and facilities for sense gratification are deteriorating. Therefore, in this verse, the word vilammanti, plundering, is used. Everything is being plundered from the very beginning of our lives. Yeah, you buy something, like, for example, when there's Christmas, kids get some toys, and after getting them, opening them up, and then playing with them, they're broken, and then they end up thrown in the garbage can. Happens all the time. The plundering of our possessions and lifespan begins with the day of our birth. One day will come when death will finish everything, and the living entity will have to enter another body to begin another chapter of life, and again begin the cycle of material sense gratification. Prahlada Maharaj describes this process as punas charvita charvananam, meaning eating the remnants over and over again. Bhagavatam 7.5.30. Materialistic life means chewing the chewed again and again. The central point of material life is sense gratification in different types of bodies. The living entity enjoys various senses, and through creating various types of facilities, he chews the chewed. Whether we squeeze sugar out of the sugar cane with our teeth or a machine, the result is the same. Sugarcane juice. We may discover many ways to squeeze the juice out of the sugarcane, but the result is the same. Yeah, we get the juice out of it, and then there's just the remains of the juice. Text 15. When King Gandharva Raja, or Chandavega, and his followers began to plunder the city of Puranjana, a snake with 5 hoods began to defend the city. Okay, this is getting interesting now. When one is sleeping, purport, when one is sleeping, the life air remains active in different dreams. The 5 hoods of the snake indicate that the life air is surrounded by 5 kinds of air, known as prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana. When the body is inactive, the prana, or the life air, is active. Up to the age of 50, one can actively work for sense gratification. But after the 50th year, one's energy decreases. Although one can, with great strain, work for 2 or 3 more years, perhaps up to 55th year. Thus, the 55th year is generally taken by government regulations as the final year for retirement. The energy which is fatigued after 50 years is figuratively described herein as a serpent with 5 hoods. Okay. Text 16. The 5-hooded serpent, the superintendent and protector of the city of King Puranjana, fought with the Gandharvas for 100 years. He fought alone with all of them, although they numbered 720. Wow. Purport. The 360 days and 360 nights combined to become the 720 soldiers of Chandavega, meaning time. One has to fight these soldiers throughout one's lifespan, beginning with birth and ending with death. The fight is called the struggle for existence. Despite this struggle, however, the living entity does not die. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2.20, the living entity is eternal. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vanabhuya ajo nitya sasvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sarire. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Actually, the living entity does not take birth, nor does he die. But he has to fight with the stringent laws of material nature throughout the entire span of lifetime. He must also face different kinds of miserable conditions. Despite all this, the living entity, due to illusion, thinks that he is well situated in sense gratification. Take text 17. Because he had to fight alone with so many soldiers, all of whom were great warriors, the serpent with 5 hoods became very weak. Seeing that his most intimate friend was weakening, King Puranjana and his friends and citizens living within the city all became very anxious. One second. Yeah. Okay. The living entity, purport, the living entity resides within the body and struggles for existence with the limbs of the body, which are referred to here as citizens and friends. One can struggle alone with many soldiers for some time, but not for all time. The living entity within the body can struggle up to the limit of 100 years with good luck. But after that, it is not possible to prolong the struggle. Thus, the living entity submits and falls victim. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sung, Vrida Kala Aloa Aola Saba Sukha Bhagala. When one becomes old, it becomes impossible to enjoy material happiness. Well, that's true. Generally, people think that religion and piety come at the end of life. Yeah, it's all sense gratification. And then right before we die, we become religious. And at this time, one generally becomes meditative and takes to some so-called yogic process to relax in the name of meditation. Meditation, however, is simply a farce for those who have enjoyed life in sense gratification. As described in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, meditation, dhyana, dharana, is a difficult subject matter that one has to learn from his very youth. To meditate, one must restrain himself from all kinds of sense gratification. Unfortunately, meditation has now become a fashion for those who are overly addicted to sensual things. Such meditation is defeated by the struggle for existence. Sometimes such meditative processes pass for transcendental meditation. King Puranjana, the living entity, being thus victimized by the hard struggle for existence, took to transcendental meditation with his friends and relatives. Okay, well, there's a difference between the modern so-called yogis who are meditating and the transcendental meditation of King Puranjan. Text 18. King Puranjana collected taxes in the city known as Panchala, and thus was able to engage in sexual indulgence, being completely under the control of women. He could not understand that his life was passing away and that he was reaching the point of death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Government men, including kings, presidents, secretaries, ministers, and what's his name? Yeah, anyway, are in a position to utilize taxes collected from the citizens for sense gratification. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that in this Kali Yuga, government men, Rajanyas, and those connected with the government, as well as exalted government ministers, secretaries, and presidents, will all simply collect taxes for sense gratification. Oh, that's true. The government is top heavy, and without increasing taxes, the government cannot maintain itself. When taxes are collected, they are utilized for the sense gratification of the government officials. Such irresponsible politicians forget that there is a time when death will come to take away all their sense gratification. Some of them are convinced that after life, everything is finished. Of course, that is a false narrative. Nothing is finished after life. Everything continues, but in a different body. The atheistic theory was conceived long ago by the philosopher called Charvaka. Charvaka recommended that man should live very opulently by either begging, borrowing, or stealing. He also maintained that one should not be afraid of death, the next life, the past life, or an impious life, because after the body is burnt to ashes, everything is finished. Yeah, this is the prayer of karmis. If they pray, their prayer is, when I die, I want everything to stop. I don't want to have any existence after I die. Of course, that is a false desire. This is the philosophy of those who are too much materially addicted. Such philosophizing will not save one from the danger of death. Well, that's false philosophizing. Nor will it save one from an abominable afterlife. Yeah. I know I met this one lady once, and she told me, my only hope is that when I die, there is nothing. And I told her, well, how do you know that? She said, well, I pray for that. I said, you pray for it, but you're an atheist. Who do you pray to? She said, that doesn't matter. Complete nonsense. My dear King Parsina Bodhisattva, at this time, the daughter of formidable time was seeking her husband throughout the three worlds. Although no one agreed to accept her, she came. Yeah, formidable time is always going to lessen the period of time one will live in this world. In due course of time, when the body becomes old and practically invalid, it is subject to jara, the sufferings of old age. There are four basic kinds of suffering: birth, old age, disease, and death. No scientist or philosopher has been able to make a solution to these four miserable conditions. That's a very good statement. It's a fact. Although they make so many statements that, well, soon and by 2040, deaths will be optional. That's complete nonsense. Death is never going to be optional for the living entity. The invalidity of old age, known as jara, is figuratively explained here as the daughter of time. No one likes her, but she is very much anxious to accept anyone as her husband. No one likes to become old and invalid, but this is inevitable for everyone. The daughter of time, Jara, was very unfortunate. Consequently, she was known as Durbaga, ill-fated. Whenever you hear the prefix dur, that means it's something really bad. However, she was once pleased with a great king, and because the king accepted her, she granted him a great benediction. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur Singh, Sabasuka Bhagala, all kinds of happiness disappear in old age. That's true. Consequently, no one likes old age or jara. Thus, jara, as the daughter of time, is known as a most unfortunate daughter. She was, however, at one time accepted by a great king, Yayati. Yayati was cursed by his father-in-law, Sukracharya, to accept her. When Sukracharya's daughter was married to King Yayati, one of her friends named Sarmishta went with her, in other words, had sex with her. Later, King Yayati became very much attached to Sarmishta, and Sukracharya's daughter complained to her father. Consequently, Sukracharya cursed King Yayati to become prematurely old. King Yayata had 5 youthful sons, and he begged all his sons to exchange their youth for his old age. No one agreed except the youngest son, whose name was Puru. Upon accepting Yayati's old age, Puru was given the kingdom. It is said that 2 of Yayati's other sons, being disobedient to their father, were given kingdoms outside of India, most probably Turkey or Greece. The purport is that one can accumulate wealth and all kinds of material opulences, but during old age, one cannot enjoy them. Although Puru attained his father's kingdom, he could not enjoy all the opulence, for he had sacrificed his youth. One should not wait for old age in order to become Krishna conscious. Due to the invalidity of old age, one cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. However opulent he may be materially. Well, that's true. Very, very true. When I once came to this earth from Brahmaloka, this is next text 21. When I once came to this earth from Brahmaloka, the highest planetary system, the daughter of time, wandering over the universe, met me. Knowing me to be an avowed brahmachari, she became lusty and proposed that I accept her. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Narada Muni was a Naistika brahmachari, meaning he never dropped one, uh, he never engaged in illicit sex. That is, he never had sex life. There it is. He was consequently an evergreen youth. Yeah, if you never engage in sex life, you will always be youthful. Old age, Jara, could not attack him. The invalidity of old age can overcome an ordinary man, but Narada Muni was different. Taking Narada Muni to be an ordinary man, the daughter of time confronted him with her lusty desire. It requires great strength to resist a woman's attraction. It is difficult for old men, and what to speak of young. Those who live as brahmacharis must follow in the footsteps of the great sage Narada Muni, who never accepted the proposals of Jara, in other words, to have sex. Those who are too much sexually addicted become victims of Jara. Yeah, they'll become old and sick. And very soon their lifespan is shortened. Without utilizing the human form of life for Krishna consciousness, the victims of Jara die very soon in this world. Text 22. The great sage Narada continued. When I refused to accept her request, she became very angry at me and cursed me severely because I refused her request. She said that I would not be able to stay in one place for a long time. Well, that's a blessing for a sannyasi. The great sage Narada has a spiritual body. Therefore, old age, disease, birth, and death do not affect him. Narada is the most kind devotee of the Supreme Lord, and his only business is to travel all over the universe and preach God consciousness. In other words, his business is to make everyone a Vaishnava. Under the circumstances, there is ordinarily no need for him to stay in one place or for more than the time he requires to preach. That's like 3 days. Since by his own free will, he is already traveling all over the universe. The curse of Kala Kanya is described as fortunate. Like Narada Muni, many other devotees of the Lord are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord in different places and in different universes. Such personalities are beyond the jurisdiction of material laws. That's good to know. In other words, we should all become preachers and be able to uh, not be under the control of Kala Kanya or very short uh, life existence. Text 23. After she was thus disappointed by me, with my permission, she approached the king of the Yavanas, whose name was Baya. Baya's fear. And she accepted him as her husband. Oh, this is going to be trouble. One second. All right. Being the most perfect Vaishnava, Sri Narada Muni, always willing to do good to others, even to one who curses him. Although Kalakanya, the daughter of time, was refused by Narada Muni, she was given a shelter. Of course, no one could give her shelter, but a Vaishnava gives shelter somewhere to such an unfortunate girl. When Jara, or old age, attacks, everyone dwindles and deteriorates. In one stroke, Narada Muni gave shelter to Kalakanya and counter-attacked the ordinary karmis. If one accepts the instructions of Narada Muni, the ocean of fear, Bhaya, can be very quickly removed by the grace of that great Vaishnava. Yeah, when one gets older, they become fearful of old age, disease, and death. And eventually they're fearful because nobody really cares for them anymore. In fact, they seem to become a nuisance of the family members. Text 24. Approaching the king of the Yavanas, Kalakanya, addressed him as great hero, saying, "My dear sir, you are the best of the untouchables. I am in love with you, and I want you as my husband. I know that no one is baffled if he makes friends with you." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The words Yavananam Rishabham refer to the king of the Yavanas. Those are sinful people. The Sanskrit word Yavana and Malecha apply to those who do not follow the Vedic principles. According to Vedic principles, one should rise early in the morning, take bath, chant Hare Krishna, offer Mangala Arti to the deities, study Vedic literature, take prasada, and engage in dressing and decorating the deities. One must also collect money for the temple expenditures. Or if one is a householder, he must go to work in accordance with the prescribed duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra. In this way, one should live a life of spiritual understanding. And this is the Vedic way of civilization. One who does not follow all these rules and regulations is called a Yavana or Malecha. One should not mistakenly think that these words refer to certain classes of men in other countries. There is no question of limitation according to nationalism. Whether one lives in India or outside India, he is called a Yavana or Malecha if he does not follow the Vedic principles. One who does not actually follow the hygienic principles prescribed in the Vedic rules and regulations will be subjected to many contagious diseases because the students in this Krishna consciousness movement are advised to follow the Vedic principles. They naturally become hygienic, meaning not prone to getting sick. If a person is Krishna conscious, he can work like a young man, even if he is 75 or 80 years old. That's me. Thus, the daughter of Kala, time, cannot overcome a Vaishnava, Haribo. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraja Goswami engaged in writing Chaitanya Charitamrita when he was very old. Yet he presented the most wonderful literature about the activities of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami began their spiritual lives at a very old age, that is, after they retired from their occupations and family lives. Yet, they presented many valuable literatures for the advancement of spiritual life. This is confirmed by Srila Srinivas Acharya, who praised the Goswamis in this way. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipuno Saddharma Samstapako Lokanam Hita Karino Tri Bhuvane Manyo Saranya Kavaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajanandana Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghu Yugo Sri Jiva Gopaloko. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, and Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds. They are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Wow, beautiful statements. Thus, Jara, old age, meaning the effect of old age, does not harass the devotee. This is because a devotee follows the instructions and the determination of Narada Muni. All devotees are in the disciplic succession stemming from Narada Muni because they worship the deity according to Narada Muni's direction, namely the Narada Pancharata or the Pancharatrikya Vidhi. A devotee follows the principles of Pancharatrika Vidhi as well as Bhagavata Vidhi. Bhagavata Vidhi includes preaching work, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, the hearing and chanting of the glories of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Pancharatrika Vidhi includes Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Because the devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Very good statement here. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When jara, or old age, takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he is going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. It's completely opposite for karmis. Text 25. One who does not give charity according to the customs or injunctions of the scriptures, and one who does not accept charity in that way, are considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Such persons follow the path of the foolish. Surely they must lament at the end. It is herein stated that one should strictly follow the scriptures if one actually wants an auspicious life. The same is explained in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Ya shastra vidim utsrija vartate kamakarata Na sasidim avapnoti na shikam na param gatem. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. One who does not strictly follow the terms of the Vedic injunctions never attains success in life or happiness. And what to speak of going home, back to Godhead? One Shastric injunction holds that a householder, a kshatriya, or an administrative head should not refuse to accept a woman if she voluntarily requests to become a wife. Since Kalakanya, the daughter of time, was deputed by Narada Muni to offer herself to Yavana Raja, the king of Yavanas, could not refuse her. All transactions must be performed in light of the Shastric injunctions. The Shastric injunctions are confirmed by great sages like Narada Muni. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vaikya Chitete Kariya Aikya. One should follow the principles of saintly persons, scriptures, and the spiritual master. In this way, one is sure to attain success in life. Kalakanya, the daughter of time, presented herself before the king of the Yavanas precisely in terms of Sadhu, Shastra, Guru. Thus, there was no reason for not accepting her. Okay, I think we'll stop here. There's so many nice things we heard today. Our real takeaway today is the following. It says, apparently a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When jara, or old age, takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he is going back home, back to God. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Okay, my dear devotees, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. We should not be fearful of death if we are engaged in devotional service and are always in the association of genuine devotees. We have nothing to fear and nothing to worry about. Krishna promises to protect us because of our engagement constantly in devotional service of the Lord. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
So one question, Maharaj, like the Shastra, like obviously Srila Prabhupada articulated for us in simple words. The whole analogy of Puranjana, like for normal people, it's not that easy to relate to what each of those things are. Like it seems like Puranjana and then Skalakanya. I mean, there's so many analogy or characters being created to describe. What's the reason?
Well, it's called vicarious understanding. You don't have to do something to know what it is. You can learn from other people's experience. So that's called vicarious knowledge. So we're learning. by reading Shastra how to make spiritual advancement, how to recognize activities that destroy devotional service, and so forth. So we're hearing about different personalities who either succeeded or failed in spiritual life. So we don't have to go through those type of activities ourselves. We learn by the example of others what to do and what not to do. So, therefore, it says here, a devotee follows the principles of Pancharatrika Vidhi as well as Bhagavata Vidhi. Bhagavata Vidhi includes preaching work, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, the hearing and chanting of the glories of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality Godhead. The Pancharatrika Vidhi includes Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When jara, or old age, takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. There's tremendous statements by Prabhupada, wonderful statements, and they're truthful. Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. No. Why? Because the devotee is following regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he doesn't feel or experience defeat. If a devotee stops chanting, stops following the principles of Krishna consciousness, then he will experience defeat. But if he's strictly following the principles of Krishna consciousness, he'll never become, let's say, morose due to defeat. Whether one is successful or not successful, the devotee continues in the regulated principles of devotional service and does not become influenced by success or defeat. That's the life of a devotee. So it says, when jara, or old age, takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing the devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Are you happy? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then you are not depressing. And even though we're coming to advanced age, we become fearless and happy instead of becoming depressed and morose. So the question is, are you happy? Yes, if we are following Krishna consciousness, we will be happy, even in old age. Okay, my dear devotees, we'll stop there unless somebody has a question. And I'm sure there's going to be one or two questions because there are a lot of very interesting things said here.
Hare Krishna, Harivilas Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Thank
Um,
you.
I have a comment. The duration of life is short in Kali Yuga versus Satya Yuga and other ages. Why is that? Is that decided by the law of material nature or
Yes.
something? Yes,
Well,
thank you.
obviously, when you say material nature, you're talking about Krishna. He's the,
Yes.
yeah, he organizes the different periods of time and the duration of time. Krishna is time. But that doesn't stop a devotee from making spiritual advancement. So did you have a question or you just wanted to make that statement?
No, my question was why is that? Even for devotees, shouldn't it be longer life if they're following the regulative principles versus a non-devotee? That was
A
my question.
non-devotee will worry about getting old. The devotee does not get disturbed by getting old. That's why it says here. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he is not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. So, why does a devotee become fearless and thus happy? Because he has given up all sense gratification, meaning illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. He's given up these things completely. And therefore, he's happy and he's not discouraged by old age because he knows he's going back to Godhead. A common man is fearful of death. When jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Yeah, as you get older and older, the devotee gets happy because he knows he's going to meet Krishna and go back to Godhead. So he is not disturbed by getting old. He continues in regulated devotional service right up to the moment of death, just like Prabhupada. Right up to the moment of death, Prabhupada was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if we go on chanting every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we will not be disturbed by getting old. We will not become fearful of dying, and we will not engaged because we are not engaged in any sense gratification other than simply maintaining the body and soul together in a minimal way, not overeating, not oversleeping, not overindulging in sense gratification. In other words, we have a very regulated life. That is the symptom of a devotee who's on the right path of Krishna consciousness and who is destined to go back to Godhead because of his regulated life and devotional service that he's performing. Hare Krishna. Okay, my dear devotees, unless there's another question or comment, we will adjourn today's seance and pick it up tonight. Okay, our takeaway today says, consequently, it says, because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni. Let me read that again. Because a devotee rigidly follows the instructions of Narada Muni, he has no fear of old age, disease, or death. Apparently, a devotee may grow old, but he's not subjected to the symptoms of defeat experienced by a common man in old age. Consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death. As a common man is fearful of death, when jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. These amazing statements by Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was fearless. Why? Because he was Krishna conscious and he was getting engaged in preaching, chanting, dancing, feasting, and preaching. So therefore, old age did not stop him or, let's say, handicap him from preaching. Even on his deathbed, he was still preaching. Therefore, it says here, consequently, old age does not make a devotee fearful of death, as a common man is fearful of death. When jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Wow, beautiful statement. Okay, now we know how to grow old, but still remain without being distressed and fearless and happy in the engagement in Krishna consciousness. Okay, my dear devotees, any other questions or comments? If not, we will adjourn for today and pick it up again tonight. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please have a good day. Chant Hare Krishna, chant all your rounds, and be happy. That's why it says here, and this is our takeaway. When jara or old age takes shelter of a devotee, kalakanya diminishes the devotee's fear. A devotee knows that after death, he's going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he has no fear of death. Thus, instead of depressing a devotee, Advanced age helps him become fearless and thus happy. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy the rest of your life. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So that's our takeaway today. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.